This is Raythe from Raythe Reign. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 118, Human. A sharp pain struck Valerius directly in the center of his chest the moment that Raziel and Caden flew out of the lair. He sank to his knees as the strength left him like sand out of a punctured doll, and the presence he had felt with him for so long that was a part of him was no longer there. Like a child, he wanted to weep and scream and thrash. Raziel was gone. Raziel was gone! He clamped his jaw shut and he closed his eyelids tightly. He had to control himself. If he were to fall apart now, that would only confirm for Raziel that it had been wrong to leave him to save Lair, except it had not been wrong. This is what it will be like if the behemoth is not stopped, and Lair and Raziel are taken over, Valerius realized with a sickening lurch. That did not end the urge to scream, though. That just made him want to scream more. He wanted to shout out his agony, his loss, his need. He had appeared as calm as he could to Raziel and Caden. He was glad of that, because if he had let any of this show before they had left... Raziel left me. Raziel left. No, Raziel is still with me. There is no hole in my soul. There is no... What is the matter, Valerius? Illarion cried, dropping to his haunches, eyes wide. He grasped Valerius's shoulders and shook him when Valerius didn't respond right away. In truth, Valerius couldn't have responded. The scream would have left him, but somehow he managed to control himself. Shh, she'll hear you. Valerius gritted out and tipped his head towards the mouth of the tunnel and the pool beyond. He swallowed hard. The scream would not leak out. In comparison to Illarion's loud words, his would be like the clanging of a bell in comparison. Vosseth would know they were there. She? This dragon has a gender? Illarion actually brightened at the thought of a female dragon, which Valerius found ridiculous, but he didn't say that. Evidently, Caden called her the mistress of plasma, but that hardly matters if she's male, female, both, or neither, when she blasts us because you're talking too loud. Valerius growled. All right. It's just you're on your knees and there's a lady dragon waiting to kill us, Illarion said, lifting his hands up in surrender. It's all very exciting. Valerius's eyes widened, but then he let out a huff of laughter. Clearly, you need to get out more if the idea of getting killed excites you. But I'm the only one who could die here, Illarion. The lair still held the humans who were poking around at the mirror, but the two people he wanted there, needed there, were not. Caden and Raziel were on their way to face the behemoth. There was another stab of pain, but this time it was not generalized in his chest, but directly in his heart. He had never hurt this much in a long time. It was just getting used to a body that had no superior healing abilities, among other things. What do you mean? Illarion asked, acting as if the whole previous conversation had not taken place. I know you can't shift, but I wasn't exaggerating about my helplessness, Illarion. Raziel had to leave its lair to go after the behemoth with Caden. Without Raziel there, I am human for all intents and purposes, Valerius told him. Illarion blinked. You're serious? Of course I am. I thought you were doing another of those bonding things, where you complimented me and then took charge of things, mostly yourself. Illarion admitted with a shrug of his shoulders. Not that I mind. I get all the reflected glory, and you do all the work. Valerius's eyebrows rose. No, Illarion. I meant those things before, and I truly mean them now. Caden and I are counting on you and Memphis. You are our only hope. Illarion stared at him. Save me, Illarion Kenobi. You are... Valerius hit his chest, but then grimaced as his hand hurt. Don't be an idiot. I'm serious. Illarion stared down at Valerius's hand. That was like a kitten bat. You're really weak. Keep it down, and yes, how many times do I have to tell you that? Valerius's temper was threatening to unwind. He hated having to repeat himself, and he really hated having to repeat himself when the topic was how weak and useless he was without Raziel. Old friend, please bring Caden, Lair, and yourself safely home. Valerius found himself praying. Illarion's brow furrowed deeply. Let me get this straight. If our dragon spirits leave their lairs, we lose our powers? Evidently. Valerius slowly rose to his feet, putting one hand against the wall to help him keep upright. So Mephis is trapped in a cave unless I shift and let him out here? Illarion asked. Valerius was going to remark about Illarion now making Mephis male, but he was struck more by the rest of what Illarion had said, and how he had said it, and the word he'd used, trapped. Raziel could not leave the lair. Raziel's been in there for centuries, millennia, and has never said, never complained, not since the beginning when we fought for control. His stomach knotted up and his heart clenched. These sensations left him feeling nauseous. He remembered the fights they had in the beginning, how Raziel would wrest control of their human form and shift into their dragon one for months at first, before he could regain control. But of course Raziel did. Valerius realized with another sickening lurch. Raziel was imprisoned by our joining. If I did not let Raziel out, then Raziel was trapped inside a small stone room. Dragons were creatures of the air. They needed broad vistas. They had to be free to feel the wind under their wings. But in the lair, Raziel could hardly stretch its wings fully out, let alone fly. I suppose that's true. I find it disturbing too, Illarion. I did not know until now. Valerius answered, still feeling as if he might vomit. He had not truly allowed himself to think about Raziel leaving the lair meant leaving him, which meant that Raziel never left the lair otherwise, never flew except when Valerius allowed the shift, never hunted except when Valerius agreed to it, never simply was in its natural form except when Valerius wanted it to be as well. Raziel was trapped, imprisoned. Why would Mephis not tell me, and Raziel not tell you about this? Illarion asked, those furrows going deeper until they looked carved into his forehead. We are one. Mephis and I. He would know that I would object. Valerius let out a sad laugh. That is why Mephis and Illarion did not say anything to us, because they knew how we would react to it, and likely there's nothing to be done, or otherwise they would have done it by now. Nothing? We could. There must. The other thing, and then. Exactly, Valerius answered Illarion, stammering. At least nothing we can do about their circumstances in the spirit realm. But here. Illarion looked determined and grinned. Here we can do something. Yes. Valerius thought of how happy Raziel was now that Lair was there as well. That reduced the amount of space the black dragon spirit had in the lair. But the loneliness was gone. Lair and Raziel had each other and Valerius and Caden. But what about for the other dragon spirits? They're trapped alone in their stone prisons, without anyone but their human to speak with. If bonding with a human causes a spirit to be trapped in a cave, I can understand why the behemoth is so against it. Illarion spat suddenly. That is a powerful offer to make to allies. Valerius frowned. Without a human to negotiate with in terms of a body, the spirit could roam without fear of disturbing the bond in the spirit realm. But also, it could come into the human one without any limitation, too. No one would stop them from shifting and then doing whatever they liked, whenever they wanted. What spirit wouldn't accept the behemoth's offer to join with it, as that is the prize? You're right, but the behemoth doesn't intend to open the human world to the other spirits. I think it just intends to destroy it, Valerius said. Maybe. Or maybe just destroy the way things are. Send every human soul to the spirit realm. Enjoy the benefits of the material and immaterial for themselves. Like I said, Valerius, it's a powerful inducement. Illarion shook his head. There have got to be spirits that would not agree to this. Perhaps a few. Powerless and pathetic, Illarion snorted. Mephis loves me. We are one. But if he had been offered a way to this realm before he met me, he would have taken it, no questions asked. Would Raziel have done so if they had not met, or more likely before they had come to care for one another? Would the great black dragon spirit have bowed to a lowly human? No. And who could blame Raziel for that? Not me. We must not let the behemoth get more of a foothold in this world, Illarion. It must be stopped now, Valerius said. Oh, I agree. I mostly like the world as it is, with us ruling it and lots of people. Well, maybe I don't like the people, but without them the dogs would not have it as good, Illarion stated. Don't worry, Illarion. We will get you back to your doggies in all good time, Valerius promised. Dogs are loyal and they don't judge. Illarion stared at the wall. I understand, but my judgment tells me that I can count on you, Valerius assured him. Illarion gave a brief nod. If Valerius hadn't already been anxious to find Caden's body, now he was triply so. But while the prudent part would be to have Illarion take out Vosseth and wait for the other dragon shifters to find them, and then go get Caden's body, he knew in his bones that they didn't have that kind of time. We cannot linger here any longer. Once Caden and Raziel attack the behemoth, those human drones will kill Caden's body, Larry said. Right. So, what is the plan? Illarion asked. Valerius blinked at him. You want a plan? A plan, a strategy. Why wouldn't I? Illarion looked at him imperiously with his hands on his hips. I had a plan once, during the war, and if I recall, no matter what I suggested, you just did what you wanted. And in this case, I have no doubts that you will burst in there, shift into dragon form, and try to crush Vosseth with your superior weight and blow poison in her face to overcome her, Valerius told him. Illarion pursed his lips, then grinned. He slapped Valerius' shoulder and announced, That sounds like a good plan to me. He turned towards the tunnel's exit, but then stopped and turned back to Valerius. He pointed at Valerius' chest. You should keep out of the way, so that you, pitiful human, don't get crushed, or melted, or gassed. I will do my best, but I intend to slink around the pond while Vosseth is distracted by you and get to Caden, Valerius told him. And the behemoth's humans that you will find along with Caden's body? They were enough to take down Caden and Anwar. You think you can deal with them? Illarion lifted an eyebrow. You should hunker down here until the others arrive. Don't want you to get hurt. Imagine a dragon king with some bruises and cuts. It will shake everyone's confidence in us. Valerius felt weak. He felt fragile, brittle, breakable. Waiting for the others was the smart thing to do, the prudent thing. Caden and Anwar had been overcome by the horde. They all had their dragon powers when that had happened. He had none. His inner eye went to the lair. No Raziel, no Caden. But there was Jasper Hawes. He grimaced. I'll be fine. I don't intend to fight. I will get to Caden's body by stealth. Did you know that you can get some of my gay romance books for free? Every month, I have at least one book free to download, right from Amazon, so you can easily read it on any device. But these books can only be free for 5 days at a time. If you don't want to miss out, just sign up for my mailing list, and I'll send you an email whenever there's a free book available. The link to the sign-up form is in the description down below. Illarion lifted that same eyebrow again. You know how you think I have one mode? Well, you have half a mode, which is storming in and giving a look before you ash everyone. I do not ash everyone, Valerius scowled. I normally don't have to. My look is enough. True. Let's hope that's enough and people don't require you ashing them this time. None but me and Caden know about your humanity, Illarion said. Maybe you can bluff them if you get into trouble. True. The behemoth does not know yet. That was a point potentially in their favor. He straightened himself fully. Even that small act was exhausting. Had being mortal always felt like this? How had he stood it? How did anyone stand it? And then there was that missing void in his soul. Go do your thing, Illarion. Distract the lady. Illarion puffed out his chest. She will like Memphis, I think. He is a mighty dragon, and she looks rather petite. You said something like that about Caden. And remember what happened with him. He took away your power to shift, Valerius cautioned. Ach, Caden and I are lair special, This Vosseth, she might be pretty, but I can handle her, Illarion said. She is on her own, not with a group, one dragon to another. Valerius truly hoped that these would not be Illarion's last words. The Green Dragon King turned on his heel for a second time and strode out of the tunnel without turning back. As he did so, he called, Vosseth! Oh, Vosseth! Mephis would like you to come out and play. Valerius hung back, almost hunkering down in the tunnel, making himself as small and inconspicuous as possible. He told himself he'd done much the same when Raziel was with him, when they'd spied on the humans' first meeting that blew up. This was a smart thing to do now, just like it had been the smart thing to do then. It had nothing to do with him being human. He watched as a massive ruby dragon head surfaced from beneath the water. Vosseth had purple eyes with slitted pupils rather like a cat's. She blinked them slowly at Illarion, also cat-like. But whatever personality she truly had was not reflected in them. Valerius realized it was all the behemoth. Evidently, even though this dragon was not physically attached to the main Hydra body at that point, her mind was. She was utterly under the behemoth's control. Hatred rolled across those purple eyes. Vosseth's jaws cracked open, and purple light flickered between her scythe-like teeth. Illarion's 6'4" human frame didn't even reach the base of her chin. Valerius had never truly noticed any longer just how small humans were compared to dragons, how small he was now. She could have leaned down and snapped Illarion up whole in her mouth and swallowed. She wouldn't have even needed to chew. And if she decided to let loose a bolt of plasma at that moment, after it blew past Illarion, some of it would fill the tunnel and disintegrate Valerius. For a very terrible moment, Valerius remembered what it was like to be mortal again. Not now. Do not let me die now, Valerius pleaded with gods he had not believed in for a very long time. Caden needs me. Raziel needs me. The world needs me. That last statement would have been born out of arrogance from any other dragon, but Valerius had never wanted the world to need him. He found such a need an insufferable burden, or at least he had thought that. But not now. Now he wanted to save this world and its people and try to heal it. With Caden by his side, and lair and Raziel within their souls, they could do this. They could change things. Let me have a chance to change things, Valerius prayed. Vosseth's jaws opened further. He could see that the purple light was like flames that boiled up her esophagus and bathed the interior of her mouth and limbed her teeth. She was going to kill them. Illarion, do something! Valerius internally screamed. The purple plasma erupted from between her jaws. Time slowed. Illarion's human form would not be enough to block the plasma from hitting him and flash frying the flesh from his bones. Except in less than a second, it wasn't Illarion's human form between him and Vosseth, but Mephis. Mephis's exceedingly large butt was blocking the tunnel exit entirely. No plasma got past it. No light did either. Valerius was in complete and total darkness. Even if he'd had night vision any longer, he wouldn't have been able to see anything. But he did hear the dragon roars. They shook the earth. Rocks and dirt sifted down on top of Valerius's head as he crouched there, waiting for the butt to clear. There was a peculiar order then. Please tell me that Mephis does not issue gas out of both openings. Suddenly there was a crack of light and then a mighty splash. A wall of water washed back into the tunnel, soaking Valerius, as Mephis decided on the crushing Vosseth part of the plan. There wasn't just one wave, but many, as the Titanic dragon wrestled with the smaller one. But Vosseth seemed to be holding her own. Valerius shook water out of his eyes and crept towards the tunnel's exit. Water slapped against his legs and pushed him back a time or two, and nearly sucked him into the pool once. That had him gripping the wall with his fingernails and just barely keeping his feet. There was only a thin path around the edge of the pool that led to another opening on the far wall. He would have to traverse close to half a mile before he got back under cover. He would have been sweating, but the water from the pool had already drenched him. I can do this. Mephis is keeping her busy. Valerius kept low and started crouch walking along the path. He kept half an eye on the water as the two dragons spun together, There were roars and splashes. There was once even the belch of green gas that escaped the water when a large bubble of it broke the surface. Valerius slapped a hand over his nose and mouth, but truthfully, if it had drifted over to him, he would have been dead regardless. The cloud headed in the opposite direction. Valerius increased the speed of his crouch walk. A ball of plasma erupted from the water and streaked towards the cavern ceiling above their heads. That roof was also the floor of the city up above. Valerius froze as he waited to see if the roof disappeared and people and homes came falling down. But the ball hadn't been properly aimed, and it just glanced the ceiling before performing a graceful arc, and it was coming right for him. The ball of plasma was twice as large as he was. It would land upon him. He couldn't get out of its way by going forwards or back. There was only one direction he could go. Valerius dove into the water with the dragons. I hope you're enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. Dragon's Reign is free for you to enjoy, but not free for us to make. There is a whole team working with me for audio editing, artwork, graphic design, and custom music. Most YouTube channels and podcasts have sponsors and take ads, but because of the kind of content we make, we can't run ads or get sponsors. Instead, we have other ways you can support me and the team behind this gay romance audiobook. One easy way is to buy or borrow my books from Amazon. They are all gay romance set in alternative worlds with vampires or shifters and other magical beings. You may not know that even if you borrow books with your Kindle Unlimited subscription at Amazon, they are free for you, but they still earn us money. The books are published under the name Ex Aratare, which actually means Raythe in Romanian. And if you love audiobooks, you can get professionally narrated versions of every one of my books on audible.com. The link to my author page is in the description below, as well as to the first book of the series I think you'll really like. Thank you so much for your support. People like you enable me and the team to keep writing these stories of gay romance, magic, monsters, and true love, and producing this very fun podcast for everyone. Thank you.